Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Welcome. Happy Sunday, guys. Good to see all of you here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. As always, just to let you guys know, the Jaybe show is every single Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you guys would like to, you guys can also tune in to me on Thursdays for the Sabby and Jaybe show at 5 p.m. or on my own channel on the Jaybe Font channel on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. So good to have you here. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like. This helps us out in the algo. So thank you so very much for that as well. As also, just to let you guys know, if you guys have you checked to make sure you're still subscribed? Go ahead and check this to make sure you're still subscribed as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then you know what to do. All right, you guys can also join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com so you guys can get notified whenever we go live. Also, if you guys would like to submit any stories or any encouraging words, things like that, then you guys can email us at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. So thank you very much for all of that. And just to let you guys know, I am still waiting for my guest, but while we are waiting, we are going to say hello to some of the people in the chat. And also, I got a couple things I want to bring up too, if time permits. But we're going to take a look here. We have Dabby Dabs coming in saying, "At fam, good to see you in here." All right. And good to see everybody here. Jacqueline Bad Wolf coming in. Good to see you also as well. Terry Connolly coming in saying hello. All right. So, Derrick, if you're ready, just give me a thumbs up and I can bring you in. All right. So my guest today is joining me is Derrick Broze. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry for being a few minutes late. I appreciate you having me on, and definitely this is an important conversation. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. Just to let everybody know, one of the things that I want to get into is what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking. One of the things that we're going to be talking about, of course, is the homelessness that's going to be coming up later in the show. But Derrick Broze is going to be joining me to talk really about more of the technocracy that's happening right now. Derrick, one of the things that I wanted to ask you first was in your personal definition, what is a technocratic government in your opinion?
Sure. So the word technocracy, technocratic, it comes from the technocracy movement, which was first popular in the United States and Canada and some parts of Europe, but mainly the US and Canada in the 1920s, 30s, up to the 40s. And there was an organization called the Technical Alliance and then Technocracy Incorporated. And essentially at that time, if you remember back, to that point in time, there's the Great Depression, there's a lot of economic calamities going on. And so people are looking for new ideas of how to run the economy, how to run society better. And some of these folks ended up founding the technocracy movement. And they essentially believe that democracy was failing or already failed, and that politicians were not an effective way to, manage society. And also maybe to some extent that people were not intelligent enough to know what to vote for. And they also rejected ideas like monarchy and things of that sort. But instead they proposed this system where there would be the technological or scientific experts or elite who would manage things. And, they were describing what they would refer to as machines. I think in our time we would call it probably AI, but they said that they would use machines to micromanage society in order to allocate the perfect amount of resources to every village, every town, et cetera. They discussed things like energy credits that would be distributed that everybody would have to use, and essentially just a very centrally planned, managed version of society. Much of it, I think, is what we're starting to see now, but that's sort of the historical movement. And if you were to go look up Wikipedia, for example, they would say that this movement is, it's just kind of something of the past. It really has no relevance to today because the movement faded out. But actually, when you look at the people who picked up the idea after the original technocracy movement, you have people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, who is now deceased, but was a longtime national security advisor to from everybody from Obama all the way back to Jimmy Carter, who just recently passed, and the Zbigniew Brzezinski, along with Henry Kissinger and others, the Rockefellers, were involved in organizations like the Trilateral Commission starting in the 1970s, which were big proponents of the technocracy movement. And in the I think it was 70s or 80s, Zbigniew Brzezinski actually wrote a book called America Between Two Ages, the Technotronic Era. So he didn't call it technocracy, he preferred technotronic, but essentially it's the same thing. And what he describes is a world that would require the loss of individual liberty and privacy in order to micromanage society. He talked about like some version of a world police state. And the other thing that makes it kind of relevant to everything we're discussing in the current times in 2025 is that the original technocracy movement, they envisioned what they called the technate. There would be a North American technate, and this technate would include the US, Canada, Mexico, the Panama Canal, and Greenland, which looks very similar when people look at the maps that they proposed back then to what Trump is now proposing. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit of the movement itself. So as far as what a technocratic state would look like, I think it's one that is very similar to what we're facing today. You would have an all-pervasive police state, powered by things like facial recognition technology. The backbone of it is things like 5G and 6G networks, which can power smart technology, which allows, of course, surveillance in all places, whether that's smart streetlights or smart vehicles that are recording all the time, or smart homes and all the devices people, some of this being done voluntarily. But you would need this mass surveillance state in order to achieve the ability to watch and kind of manage everything in the way that they wanted to originally in terms of resources. And as I mentioned, when they were originally writing about it, they described machines would do this. This is, of course, they had early versions of what we might consider computers, but nothing like we would recognize, but they understood machines and technology were going to play a big role in the future. So I would think you also have to add to that AI, with the facial recognition technology, with the all-pervasive police state, probably things like social credit scores, which then can allow you easier ways to determine which citizens are, living the correct way, so to speak. And at the top of this, the technocrats said that there would be a technocrat king who would manage the machines. And so that's some of what the movement is, and I think what it looks like. And I do believe we are very much on the verge of that. I actually wrote a book in 2019 and updated in 2022. People can download it for free. It's called How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. That is all about solutions. And you can find it on my website at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. There's a free audiobook and a free PDF, and it's available in Spanish, French, and other languages. But yeah, so I've been paying attention to this for a little while and trying to warn about what it's coming. Unfortunately, 5 years after I originally published this book in January 2020, we're very much looking at it now in the face in terms of the second Trump administration.
Okay, so is this in relation to the World Economic Forum and some of the policies that people like Schwab is trying to implement? Really, is the policy of you will own nothing and be happy in that type of same vein? Is that within the same type of realm?
I think it's definitely related. I want to make it clear that I don't necessarily have the receipts to say that all the folks, like let's say people in the current Trump administration, that big tech, what I think is kind of a faux populist movement in the tech community, and then say the people in the Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum, which tend to, at least on paper, claim to be more progressive and things of that sort. So I don't know if they're directly connected behind the scenes, but I do think one way or the other, whether you're coming from the right-wing tech bro, we're going to fix everything with technology, or the Klaus Schwab, you own nothing and be happy, that eventually you end up in the same place.
It kind of, because it kind of feels like they intersect, where it's like, you're not going to own anything and you'll be happy, but we're going to rule over you with the technology, because you guys don't know what to do, because it's almost like, well, you're not smart enough. You're too stupid to really govern yourselves as a species. So we, who are the more higher minded people, need to be the ones that do it. And we're going to do it through technological means. That's what it feels like. It feels like an intersection between those two.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. I mean, again, in the book, I write that you have to look at the people who are sort of not only the billionaires, but definitely the billionaires, but some of the leading names and faces in the big tech sector. And that is Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, the guys at the head of Google, obviously lesser known, but equally important, if not more important, people like Peter Thiel and Palantir. And now people are paying attention to Oracle this week off the latest announcement from the Trump administration, the Stargate project. So, I mean, these are people who, for one, I want to make it clear too that technocracy, being like adamant that I'm trying to fight back and push back against technocracy, does not mean that I'm anti-technology. I want to make that clear. Like, sometimes people, I think, just confuse those terms because they sound so like, but I believe technology is a tool and can be used for good or ill. And at the same time, there is a ideology, a philosophy of technocracy, of people who say, you know what, maybe we are smarter than everybody. Maybe we do know how to manage society better. We should be the ones in charge, and we promise it'll be a utopia. And I think anybody who studies history knows that every time somebody promises a utopia like that, it rarely, if never, ends up that way. So I think we're kind of already at that point where the growth of the tech sector over the last 20 plus years and the growth of the billionaire class, who are all tied into that. And then, of course, we have to factor in the fact that most of these big tech companies, if not all of them, received seed money from the CIA's venture capital firm NQTel. So there is definitely U.S. intelligence and military connections here, not to mention that people like Elon Musk and some of these other big technocrats also, they make their wealth off of government subsidies and government contracts. They're part of the military industrial complex, right? So it's not like they're just these hardworking guys that started a business from the small mom and pop shop and then one day became a billionaire. Like, they've received corporate welfare, those subsidies and that direct connection, those contracts. And so that's really what worries me. And now that with this, I think, again, it's a fake populism and it's a fake co-opting of even some of the libertarian kind of freedom-minded conservative folks to think like they're winning, we're back, all this celebration that's been going on. But, some people are being skeptical, but overall the message is, Elon is here, Trump's in power, we're about to, go after the bad guys. Like, hey, they're removing Fauci's security detail and stuff that a lot of people are like cheering on and saying great. But at the same time, that connection and that, there's always been this revolving door between government and industry, whether you look at GMOs and pesticides, or the banks are one of the biggest examples. Like, that's always existed. So it's not necessarily anything brand new per se, but I think it is an increasing and even more bold and out in the open relationship between this allegedly private sector that, again, has received government funding and military contracts, working directly with the president and the White House, and so I think that's what's really worrisome, is just how thin that line has become now. And when you understand, I mean, I didn't even mention, but like Elon Musk's grandfather actually was involved in the technocracy movement in Canada at the time. So, he was, and again, just because your grandfather did something doesn't necessarily mean you do the same thing or believe it, right? I can admit that. But it is an interesting detail to note, like, this guy's grandfather was involved in the movement, and he very much seems to be a proponent of that thinks that, just like we could see it with him trying to exercise his influence over elections via his platform in Germany or the UK or in the US, right? I mean, this is like, they're bigger than government, right? And I'm an anarchist, so I really don't have, I don't have any, much defense of the government in general, but I also know that these guys aren't trying to talk about like, yeah, let's shrink the government, let's eliminate government departments to create more liberation and more, self-governance. It's because they believe, yeah, we should get rid of the government and let the technocrats run things.
Understood. Speaking of which, I wanted to share and get your thoughts on this. I'm not sure if you've actually seen this yet, but here's Sam Altman. I think he's a billionaire. And so this is something that gave me pause when he first stated this. And we'll play this and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I still expect, although I don't know what, and this is over a long period of time. This is not a like next year or, the year after that kind of thing. But over a long period of time, I still expect that there will be some change required to the social contract, given how powerful we expect this technology to be. I'm not a believer that there won't be any jobs. I think we always find new things to do, but I do think like the whole structure of society itself will, be up for some degree of debate and reconfiguration. I still expect, although I don't know what, and this is over a long period of time.
So he talks about a synchronization of really the social contract. And, to me, this feels like using technology and AI really to rearrange the social contract, which in my view, I honestly do think that is some dangerous thinking, especially when it comes to this social contract.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I did see that clip just last night, actually, and I just make the note because you mentioned them earlier that that's actually one of the World Economic Forum's talking points as well. And of course, they sell it like this is going to be some great future. It's time for humanity to rethink the social contract, and they sell it with a lot of buzzwords about diversity and equity and sustainability, et cetera. And it sounds like it's going to be the best thing ever. But I'm definitely, like you, very skeptical of those sort of claims.
Yeah, and I said something to the effect of I responded with a quote tweet, and I said, no, I want to go back to the social contract that we have for colonialization. That's the social contract that I think that we should go back to, the one where we actually all took care of each other. Now, I'm not like you, I am not against technology, but I think that we can use technology in order to, continue to keep that same social contract pre-colonial times as was before, while still having technology and the benefits of it. But to use it to change things, and the question that always for me goes to who benefits. Is it going to be the entirety of humanity that benefits in an equal and equitable way in an egalitarian system, or is it going to be just power at the hands of people at the top? And I think ultimately that's what this conversation is about when they talk about technocracy. It's about who benefits. And the thing is, it's like, I don't want people, a small minority of people to benefit. It's like I always say, I want the world to win. It's like, I don't want just certain, subsets of people to win. But
and the Sam Altmans of the world are promising that, like he even said it there, he's like, I don't think everybody's going to lose jobs. There will always be new jobs. And on one hand, I'm optimistic, or let's say hopeful for such an outcome, because I do think historically you look at different technological disruptions and changes. Some people do lose jobs, and then new jobs are created and progress happens, and things happen. Doesn't mean there's not hard times in that sort of transition. So that is a potential, but also there's a very realistic possibility that AI does completely disrupt everything and does cause massive job loss in different industries. In fact, I think it's really interesting that statement is coming from Sam Altman, who of course is the CEO of OpenAI. Just a week ago, about a week and a half ago, I interviewed the mother of Sushir Balaji, who is the OpenAI whistleblower who allegedly killed himself after he went public in October and started speaking to the New York Times, saying that he was concerned with what he was learning at his work at OpenAI, and that he thought AI did represent some very unique threat to humanity. Not only just it was initially about copyright law, but as time went on, he apparently became more and more concerned, and he was set to become one of the key witnesses in the New York Times lawsuit against OpenAI. And then in late November, he was found dead in his apartment, and his family, I talked to his mother, and there's all sorts of signs of it not being a suicide. And the reason that's even more disturbing is because Sam Altman's promising that that's nothing we need to worry about. Well, this former employee of his who chose to become a whistleblower was very concerned that could happen. And Sam Altman also, just to add a little more intrigue to it, Sam Altman recently was named the head of the transition team for the new mayor of San Francisco, where of course big tech in Silicon Valley is based. So the mother of this whistleblower is very concerned that OpenAI and Sam Altman's influence on not only the mayor's office, but the local police is really impeding a true investigation of what happened to her son. And of course, Sam Altman this week also was a part of the announcement with Larry Ellison of Oracle with Donald Trump at the White House, announcing this new Stargate project, where they're talking about wanting to use AI. Promises of utopia again. We're going to use AI to scan everybody's blood and do early detection of cancer before we've ever been able to detect it. And then we're going to use mRNA technology, the same we saw during the COVID times, and use that to create gene-specific vaccines, which are going to create all kinds of cures. And so they're promising $500 million or $1 billion to this. And just like with Sam Altman, when you look into Larry Ellison and you see that he also is called for using technology, he said, which would encourage citizens to be on their best behavior if we had facial recognition cameras everywhere and things of that sort. He's also been calling for essentially a complete police and surveillance state since right after 9/11. He wrote a op-ed in The Guardian, I think think it was, or no, it was the New York Times in January 2002, saying we need to have digital IDs, biometric, et cetera. Pretty much everything that we see, they're now like very close to achieving. He's been calling for that for 20 years now. So again, these are the people that Donald Trump is keeping company with in the White House. These are the people that are getting access to contracts. Now there's also discussion that Oracle, that same guy, one surveillance state who's involved with this Stargate project, that they might buy TikTok. And so he's just a lot of big tech moves happening right now. And while people are celebrating maybe bits and pieces of Trump's thing, like for example, the JFK, MLK, RFK files, like allegedly going to be released, I think that there's a lot more going on that people are just not aware of. And if they see, or even if they are aware of it, they might not really understand the bigger implications of what's at play here.
Yeah, there's actually something else I want to play as well here, because there's Sam Altman talking about the same thing that you were just speaking of when he was at the Trump White House. And so I wanted to listen to this, and then we'll talk about that a little bit further on the other side.
I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate. We will be amazed at how quickly we're curing this cancer and that one and heart disease, and what this will do for the ability to deliver very high quality healthcare, the costs, but really to cure the diseases at a rapid rate, I think will be among the most important things this technology does.
Very good. My question is like, at what cost? Like, for instance, who benefits? Because is this going to be something that's going to be given freely to the people, or is this going to be something that's going to be held back for profit? You know, or is you're going to have to provide this immense resource to us at great cost to your life in order to be able to get this cure, in order to be able to have it? And then, even then, is it going to be implemented in the correct way that is natural and conducive for us for when it comes to our health, or is it going to have some fatal flaw? That's something question, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think you bring up a couple of good points there. I'm skeptical just on from the jump on the technology itself and in the claims that they're making, right? Just that. But let's even take them at their word and, okay, it's the best thing ever, right? It's going to really heal everybody and do all these things. Like you said, who's going to have access to that? How much is it going to cost? Will that really trickle down to the average person, where we all just have access to these miracle shots that, you know, cure us of all diseases? Again, that's if you even just take them on their word that what they're injecting into you with this mRNA technology, which many people have been researching since COVID, you know, the last few years, and finding numerous health problems. And we're talking about putting it inside of our bodies to allegedly stop cancer. And I don't know, it just seems like a huge risk for me. So it's one way or the other, whether you take them on their word and we trust them with the technology they're claiming, will it make it to the average person? You know, I don't think history really bodes well for the idea that it's going to reach people like me and you, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, here's head of Oracle, Larry Ellison, talking about us being on our best behavior.
Police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
First of all, let me ask you this, because who determines what's our best behavior? That's my question.
And it's a great question, brother. Like I said, I mean, the people, the ruling class, right, or the wannabe ruling class, they're the ones setting the policies, right? And these are the same people that, as we just heard, are talking about rewriting the social contract, right? So what to them is best behavior? This also is why I was mentioning and warning about the idea of social credit scores, because it's not just going to be, because I've watched the whole clip. I actually included in my latest article at The Last American Vagabond about this Stargate project. And he describes like school campus, and it's like, oh, we could stop school shootings if we just put cameras everywhere, and we'll be able to scan the faces of everybody, and we'll know exactly who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there. And if the camera detects somebody pulling out a weapon, it would immediately alert, you know, the authorities and this and that. And then he kind of starts segueing into talking about cops, like, oh yeah, we would have the body cameras. And that's when he's saying, we would tell them like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, and it'll turn off. But in reality, it's never going to turn off. It'll be on all the time, but it'll be under a court order, so nobody will be able to use it. And then he starts kind of getting into that. And this will be a way to correct police misbehavior. The police will be on their best behavior. And then, as he said, and then citizens will be on their best behavior. Well, you don't do that with just facial recognition cameras. Sure, the cameras and the AI scanning, it gives you the information, but how do you actually coerce or subtly convince people to act on their quote unquote best behavior. Well, you have a reward and a punishment system, and that's what social credit scores are. If you are posting, conspiracy theories on the internet, let's say your score goes down, and that score determines what businesses you're allowed to, whether you are eligible for a job promotion, whether you have access to welfare programs, for example. It could lead to all kinds of ways that governments could choose to selectively take that idea of a social credit score and then determine what services, or what we used to call rights, and when they become privileges, what privileges you have access to based on whether or not you're on your best behavior.
Wow. Let's continue this.
And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras. It's AI that's looking at the camera. No. You can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. We just, if there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple. And the new generation of autonomous drones.
What in the Terminator 2 Judgment Day iRobot bullshit is this?
This is the world they imagine. And you know what? You mentioned the World Economic Forum again, so I'll just bring it back up. So that phrase that you touched on earlier, "you own nothing, be happy." For those who don't know, that original phrase comes from a 2016 blog or essay that was written by a Danish politician and published in Forbes website and on the World Economic Forum simultaneously. And so this is her vision of like the future utopia as they describe it. And, she's like, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing and I have no privacy and life has never been better," trying to sell you on this idea. And in that they describe, well, we don't really go out that much anymore because the drones deliver all of our food and deliver our, stuff from Amazon or wherever you're buying it from. And we have driverless vehicles. So I don't need to own a vehicle anymore. And I don't need, just this whole vision that the World Economic Forum does describe. To your question earlier, it definitely does intersect with the whole populist big tech right Trump movement, MAGA movement right now. And that's what I've been trying to warn people as well, because in many of the MAGA folks, they think that Trump is kind of sticking it to that crowd. Like he's the resistance or the pushback, the counter to that World Economic Forum, "you will own nothing and be happy" movement. But in reality, a lot of what he's doing is very similar, a lot of the direction they're pulling us. And so I think that is kind of, in my mind, from my perspective, a lot of what I've been reporting on the last 2 years, that this is kind of a co-opting of people who I think legitimately do care about liberty and want a better world in different ways, whether or not we would agree with them on all the solutions per se. There are people who genuinely see problems and are like, "Hey, we need something better." That kind of feeling and that movement, which did touch across races and genders and communities across the country, and led people to Trump because of how crazy some of the mainstream Democrats and progressives have become. It is actually just a co-opting of that energy and just bringing them back into that same, path towards "you own nothing and be happy." But many of the people who are supporting it don't see it.
And this kind of reminds me of, the pushback. Remind me, if it was a few years ago, how a lot of people on the right were very resistant to technology like this. They were very resistant to AI. And, they were fearmonger about, oh my God, we can't let technology get this big because it's going to be bad for us. And next thing you know, their patron saint, their darling, who is Donald Trump, is now embracing the one thing that they all fearmongered about just a few years ago.
Oh, I mean, right now, literally, like I said, with the Stargate project announcing like AI mRNA vaccines, the MAGA people were very resistant to the COVID injections, and I think rightfully so. And there have been, I do want to give some credit. I have been seeing some people across social media feeds saying, "Oh no, I can't believe Trump is doing this. Like, this is totally the wrong direction we need to go. This does not make America healthy again, etc." But I think you also still have those sycophants who are just going to make excuses for Trump no matter what, and we're going to keep hearing excuses. And unfortunately, because many people just looked at Kamala Harris and Biden and thought like, well, that's a total joke. There's no way I could support that. There's also people who are going to make excuses for the next 4 years and say, well, at least it's not Kamala. And that's unfortunate because it's just people don't have principles. They can't, instead they're following like a cult in a way, whether it's about Trump or anything really. If you can't question the group, the in-group that you're a part of and say, hey guys, this doesn't line up with what I thought we all signed up for, then you might want to question the people you're following, listening to, hanging out with, etc. So I hope that the people who, supported Trump for whatever reason that they chose to, which I did not and do not, will have the courage to speak up and say, this isn't what we signed up for.
Yeah, it reminds me of the people who were on the Democratic side who had the courage to stand up against Biden and Harris when they were committing a genocide. And they said, well, this is a bridge too far and I can't go with that. Are people who are on the MAGA side, the GOP side, going to say the same thing to Trump? Well, this is a bridge too far. I can't rock with this. And are they going to hear us when we talk about that we need to be post-duopoly? We need to actually just leave both parties, because honestly, when I look at them, I can see the technocracy either happening from the Democratic side or the Republican side now. And I wasn't expecting, I did not have this on my bingo card, especially. And I also want to kind of shift gears a little bit to this point in regards to what they're trying to do with TikTok. Apparently, Trump is trying to also get Oracle to purchase TikTok or be a part of TikTok, which is interesting. It says here the Trump administration is reportedly negotiating an Oracle takeover of TikTok. Says the Trump administration is negotiating a deal that would see Oracle take over TikTok alongside new U.S. investors. Lawmakers passed a bill last year forcing Chinese parent company ByteDance to either sell TikTok or see it banned in the U.S. The app briefly went dark before the law took effect on January 20th until the incoming president, Donald Trump, said he would see an executive order delaying the ban. So this really is just trying to get U.S. Companies because they can have more control over Oracle versus a ByteDance, right? Because ByteDance is really within China. So they can't really, make as many demands of ByteDance than they could Oracle. This just goes to show that it looks like it's more control over what we say and think within the, this sphere. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm right on the same page with you on that, brother. In fact, I think that I don't use TikTok. I have my website has a channel on there that a friend of mine runs, and she's very active on there. And so she was kind of filling me in on all the drama of we're counting down to the second, TikTok's about to go dark, and then it came back up, and she told me it was a total of only 14 hours. And then whenever they came back on, there was a thank you message that from the CEO of TikTok, who did attend Trump's inauguration, that was we're back available in the US. Thank you, President Trump. The whole thing to me just felt like a big fake out, a psyop of some sort, like Trump probably with his guys knowing they're going to buy it and talking with the CEO ahead of time, having this whole plan, and it's letting the millions of Gen Z and others who are obviously using the platform and people who have businesses on the platform have their freak out moment, crying, etc. And then I saw the videos being shared, people using Tupac, you are appreciated, and doing TikTok videos to Trump. Thank you, Trump, for saving TikTok. I mean, it was just the most disgusting sad thing I've seen, but there was a lot of them. And I'm talking about black, white, young, old, like just, all like it was clear to me that this was another easy win for Trump to score on his way in. The alleged Gaza ceasefire, the TikTok saving, doing a couple of other things, throwing some bone, throwing some red meat to his base, and to just regular people who are like, hey, JFK files, that might be a good thing. Meanwhile, he's, ending the limitations on weapons to Israel. He's doing all the things we've been discussing here and much more. Of course, the deportations and building the massive police state are just getting started. So I think that it is just a matter of he's coming into office. They give him a couple of wins, or at least the appearance of some wins, to distract people from what's really going on behind the scenes. And I do apologize, brother, but I have to run. But I look forward to coming back and talk with you soon. And if anybody wants to find me, they can find me at theconsciousresistance.com. Like I said, you can download my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. And I hope to come back on sometime.
Thank you so very much for joining me, Derrick Broze. It's very awesome to have you here, and look forward to having our conversation a little bit more deeper about this in the future.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. So if you guys have not already, this was a great conversation. I think we need to continue to have this conversation in the future, especially among each other. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to this video. And then we can go into the comments in the chat and we will get some of your thoughts as well. So thank you very much for this. One thing I do want to say, though, I honestly do think that some of the solutions for this, and we can always get into this a little bit deeper next time when Derrick comes back. But one of the things I think is this is why we talk about organizing. And organizing doesn't just mean just like saying things online in group chats, right? What I mean is getting outside, getting in front of other human beings and interacting and doing things like there was a great article out of the Council for Black Political Power. This article that was written by a comrade. In fact, let me share that with y'all really quick because I want to make sure that I get this correct. But there was this article that was written in regards to something that absolutely must be done in order for us to kind of circumvent what they're trying to do. Let me see. Here we go. Perfect. This is from the Chronicles of Black Political Power. It was a submission by a comrade, Anti-Genocide Potato. So let me share my screen really quick so you guys can see this, and then I'll link the article too, because it's a really well-written article that really actually combats this. So the article says the missing piece of the puzzle is food. We can't feed ourselves. We can't disrupt the system that feeds us. If we don't source our food locally, we won't fight to stay. We urgently need communities that can feed themselves while withholding labor, communities that trust and rely on each other, and communities that understand the vital importance of the land they are living on. That's from Anti-Genocide Potato. And I included in my comments that if you're saying that we need mutual aid, why not start at the front of the supply chain and grow food if you're able to? If you want a general strike, food is essential for us to withstand a strike. And of course, Katie Lewis, my comrade, also part of the RBN Orlando chapter, provided the platform for this. And so he wrote that article on Substack. So I just wanted to share that with you guys as well. So you guys can also read this article that was made as of recently. It says, Noah's coming to feed us. So this is the article here, right? And so talking about really just us coming together and doing the work on the ground to undermine the system, right? So that we can help and provide for each other, really the way the original social contract really the way the original social contract was implemented to us pre-colonial times. And so I think that's really the answer for us, because ultimately it's not going to happen through these politicians. It's not going to happen through any of these systems. So if you guys want to, you guys can actually give that a read. It's actually a really great article, and I encourage you all to read it. But yes. So we're going to go into the comments in the chat. I'm going to check on the Rumble to see if we have any Rumble rants first. And then we're going to go into the Rockfin to check on there to see if we have any Rockfin chats, which we do. So we're going to get into that. And then we'll get into the general chat here just to see. Let me make sure. I could have swore. Okay. All right. So let me go into this. And I hope you guys are having a great time, because I also have another segment to get into. That one was surprising. And I'm surprised I kind of missed that, but we'll get into that in a second. So thank you, Dave. Burt says many other connections on top of that. Derrick just pointed out. Thank you so much for the $2 tip. Thank you for your tip as well, Dave. Burt says that the mafia on top is so brazen and law-breaking now that they be more vulnerable, possibly in some ways, to a large working people boycott, withdrawal of fund and work. We got to get people to move away from being willing to work for all these companies. By the way, at its origin, the phrase social contract, Rousseau used it as a half satirical, half putting the aristocrats of the time, their domination, as having a flip side social contract, which was not much there outside of aristo domination in European society. There, the phrase was not a progressive phrase. It took on the meaning of guaranteeing social standards much later in educated intercircles, meaning Rousseau thought that there almost no social contract the aristocrats were bound to respect. They bound the public to them by using the popularity of Rousseau's social contract notion, bound in other ways than droit de seigneur, divine right of kings, aristocratic authority of lords, typical of the 20th century wealthy white liberals, to cotton on the idea of the 18th century French intellectual governing history to repopularize it in modern US government circles. That motherfucker, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Thank you very much for all that. Let's go to Roger Meadows. Thank you very much. He says, technocrats wish to hijack and replace elected officials to become the government. I tell conservatives, libertarians who don't believe government isn't efficient and acts like a timely matter needs to see to be small. It is not about the size of government, but who owns government. Want it to work for us? Then we must own it. And the only way is through direct democracy. Conservatives were against big tech before because it was Obama who introduced it. Yeah. And then James needs money for Seattle. Oh, thank you so much, Roger. James needs money for Seattle. Look at how much iPhones with TikTok pre-installed are selling for on eBay. I wonder how much they're offering for Samsung with TikTok pre-installed. I don't think I have a phone with TikTok pre-installed. I don't think I've ever had one, but thank you very much. This Fortune magazine used iPhones with TikTok pre-installed, sell for astronomical amounts. Interesting. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Appreciate it. All right, let's go into the rest of the chat here. I got to check to see if we have any super chats because I was so busy with the conversation that I didn't get to check. So I'm just going to scroll up to see if we have any super chats so far, but I don't see any at the moment. But I definitely will be picking out randomly some chats in here from what people were saying, because I think this is a deep conversation that needs to continue. because I'm ultimately, for me, it's about like, if we're not going to implement technology that's going to benefit all of mankind equally and equitably, then I don't want it, because we're not going to do it, you know, because it needs to benefit all of us. So let me get to some. Good to see Zoya in the chat. Let me see. Here's from Bender, says machines cost too much money to maintain and upgrade. I'm pretty sure the wealthy class save more money by using minimum wage labor. There's no challenge by any party to raise wages. Yeah, that's also a huge truth. And the thing is, it's like they're, you know, because they ultimately it's about maximizing profits. But the thing is, that's also the reason for wanting to implement a lot of machines, is so that they won't have to pay a wage. And if the maintenance for those, if they can exploit the maintenance for those to pay those as cheap labor, then of course, then it's going to be even cheaper to have those machines and just keep those maintenance as well. And Manon says, you can tell by his facial expression, this dude is just waking up and he is pissed. What? Well, look, I'm gonna be real with you. I've known, a lot of this is just, how you see the machine, but when somebody actually cracks the machine open and you start to see the gears and how it works, then that's how my reaction was. It's like, I know the car drives, I know the car pushes forward, and I know the car transports from one place to another, but you're cracking open the hood and you're showing me the engine and the drivetrain and the transmission and all these different pieces of it. And so that's really how my expression was going on there. But thank you very much for your observation. Daryl says, busting the technocratic bubble. Yes, of course. Thank you very much for that. DJ Adam says that Chuck D warned us of the Technate. I don't know, because I haven't listened to Chuck D much in my life growing up. I'm a child of the late 80s, early 90s, and so I didn't get to listen to him as much. But one thing I do say is that if he did, and if he was trying to fight the power, that ship has sailed, because he was taking pictures with Anthony Blinken last year. So I'll just put it that way. So I don't know, man. Plus, we had him on this channel, and we've confronted him on that, and that didn't go too well. Well, for him, it didn't go too well. But yeah. Let me see. Sorry, I was just looking at this. Okay. Mike says, amazing how all brilliant billionaires can't form a logical sentence, answer, or interact with people. Daryl says, Klaus said, what changes with the fourth industrial revolution is you. Martino says, Stargate is Warp Speed 2.0 and Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Normal says, and your new job will be low wage slave in a 15-minute prison city. Ah, interesting. The Eerie Fairy Tale says, right, you got all these Trump lovers who think he's a savior. And if we criticize him, they say you have Trump derangement syndrome. No, we're just critically thinking he's in with the big tech bros. And this is one of the reasons why I always talk about how Trump and Biden are really two sides of the same coin. They're cut from the same cloth. When people talk about, oh my God, you got Trump derangement syndrome, I'm like, no, I have capitalism derangement syndrome. The thing is that it's always a system where you try to have one small, minute party rule over the masses. And I firmly do not believe that. Humans within our us as a species, we are smart enough and bright enough to be able to govern over ourselves while still using a system of society in order to make sure that everybody benefits. We can do this. We can do this in a very egalitarian way. The problem is that you have some with this hierarchical brain rot that want to dominate over others because they think that they actually know what's best for humanity, when reality, what's best for humanity was already done, has been done, and we just need to go back to it. We just deviated from it in the first place. Part of one of the reasons why we deviated from it is because of the greed of people, for instance, like the divine right of kings that was just spoken about earlier, or people like the billionaire class who think that just because they were able to exploit a whole bunch of people out of their surplus labor that, oh, well, I'm actually smarter than everybody else, so I should be one of the people who determines how the world works. No, dipshit. That's not how the world works. The world works when actually people collaborate and cooperate with each other in order to help us not only survive but thrive. The issue is that you got people who honestly think that they're so high-minded, so much better than everybody else, that they end up pushing everybody to the margins because they think, well, I'm better, I'm smarter. Are there stupid people that exist? Yes. But part of it is because systemically, we push people to not be so bright. Because we make it so that education is paywalled. No wonder why we have half of America can't read above a 6th grade education. I'm not going to blame the people necessarily. I'm blaming the systems that make it possible for half of people to have a 6th grade education reading level. Sorry. Because if we actually had more of an egalitarian society, then it would have encouraged, more literacy within this country. It would encourage more media literacy. It would encourage more critical thinking. The problem is that they don't want you to be a critical thinker because who owns the government? It's not the people that own the government, it's the corporations. And so they just want a bunch of compliant workers in order to be able to push forward their ideas. And so because they want those compliant workers, they want you compliant and complacent, then of course, what they're going to do, they're going to discourage you from being as critically thinking and as literate as possible. They want you just enough, just so that you can put the trinkets together for them so that they can exploit you and then take the money out of your pockets or take the resources out of your land. It's a sick system. And the thing is, people are like, the system is broken. No, the system is designed exactly as intended. It's never broken. It's just a sick system in that it shouldn't exist anymore. Anyways, I'm getting on my soapbox, so I don't want to continue. But anyways, let me do a shout out to the patrons, and then we'll get into our next segment. But just a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. We thank you guys so much for being so gracious in allowing us to be able to do this work in RBN. Now, What those of us here at RBN, one of the things that we like to do is we like to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And one of the things that we always encourage is mutual aid. Mutual aid is something that is deeply important and is what's going to be the fuel that drives the engine of revolution. Because you cannot have it without people's material needs being met so that they can do the work on the ground and direct action. So we are able to also inform our fellow neighbors, our working class and poor neighbors who are being exploited in this system, so to let them know, not just to know that you're being exploited, because it's like, duh, you guys are being exploited. Everybody knows that. But how, and also as to what can be done in order to stand up and straighten your backs. This is what needs to happen. And so I just want to thank everybody for your contributions, for your encouraging words, for your shares, for your subscribes, even, just for watching us and just, getting something out of this. Because without you guys, we would not be able to do this work, and you guys make it possible. So just thank you very much for that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the next segment. I really want to talk about this because I think it's absolutely necessary. We're going to talk about homelessness. What is that 105%? And why is it so concerning? Well, this is something that I really want to get into right now. I live in Central Florida. Yes, I know. Go ahead. Feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for myself. Of course, I have to live under the administration of Ron DeSantis. But unfortunately, because of the system that we live in, homelessness is on the rise. This is an article that I read out of Orlando Weekly that came out in the middle of last year. And I'm like, how in the hell did I miss that? I was talking about a bunch of other stuff regarding homelessness, but this article went past me. But no longer. I'm going to talk about it right now because I think this is really, I think when it comes to all politics, it is local, and our focus should be on locally what's happening as well. So we're going to get into this Orlando Weekly article, and let me make sure this is large enough for everybody to see. It says the number of unsheltered homeless people in Central Florida has more than doubled, new data shows. The blurb reads, the latest data on homelessness in Central Florida shows that the region is no longer a place where older adults can retire and live comfortably with dignity. So we're going to get into this article, and I want to focus on this primarily because a lot of times we focus on the national, right? We focus on the world, right? Of course, my comrade Nick, he's talks a lot about foreign policy, right? We'll talk about, national policy, but I want to talk about something that's more local and more focused because really this is a microcosm of what's going on. But I want everybody to also start looking at locally what's going on in your area because you can affect change locally way more powerfully than you can nationally. And this is also a way to help activate you to be able to do more for yourself and your neighbors to act collectively. So this is what we're going to get into. Let's get into this article right here. So it says, after reporting just a slight decline in the number of unhoused people in Central Florida region, just ahead of the pandemic, advocates say that the direction has now sharply reversed, with new figures showing a rise in homelessness that's worse than ever. Says the number of homeless people in Florida who are living in their cars, on the streets, or otherwise without access to emergency shelter or transitional housing more than doubled this past year, according to the region's latest point in time count, with the bulk concentrated in Orange County, where I live. According to the latest data, the number of homeless people counted across Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties this January rose 28% in total, from 2,258 people in 2023 to 2,883 in 2024. Meanwhile, the total number of those people without any sort of shelter across the region increased 105% from 587 people to about 1,200. So this is what I'm talking about. The homelessness crisis. This is a crisis that is man-made. This is man-made and system-made that is continuously happening within our country. And I spoke about on my channel last year how the number of baby boomers, elderly people, are now becoming homeless at record rates because of a system that is unsustainable. Mama and daddy cannot afford a place to live because what they save for retirement got ate up through inflation, aka corporate price gouging. And so when we talk about trying to come together as a community, these are the people that we're talking about, the most vulnerable. We'll see them on the street corner and then we'll drive past by them. Or sometimes we won't even acknowledge their presence as a human being. And we wonder why they exist. For some people who are new to RBN, hello, nice to meet you. I'm going to explain something as the reason why homeless people within this system exist. Homeless people are an example that is provided by the ruling class to keep you in line to accept your exploitation so that you will accept crumbs when they give you a job. So that you don't end up like them out on the street. That's why homelessness exists. And so the examples are growing, right? So then we're accepting $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour in a city, in a state that you have to make literally $35 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And it's not just figures. I'm not just pulling that out of my ass, right? Those figures come from the National Low Income Housing Coalition Out of Reach program, where they actually took a look at all of the states, all 50 states within the United States, and they ranked them from number 1 to 50. And Florida is the 10th most expensive state to live in the United States. The number 1 is California. And so when people go, oh my God, all these blue states are so expensive. No, Florida's a red state and it's extremely expensive. And sometimes it's not necessarily about how much you make, but it's the ratio when it comes to your cost of living, right? And how much you're able to save. And it's pretty drastic, and it goes across the board throughout this country. And we're seeing record homelessness happening at exponential rates throughout this country, as we can see. Let's continue within this article. It says another word for it, she says, is crisis, not only because the rise in homelessness, but because the region has lost nearly 400 shelter beds, including beds for homeless youth, and about 200 permanent supportive housing units. Permanent supportive housing, a form of housing assistance, can be a lifeline for people who are chronically homeless, who have more complex health needs, such as disability or mental illness. Just as an aside, just to let you guys know, some of the people who are overrepresented in being unhoused is people who are disabled, have mental health issues, right? And are also LGBTQ, especially the youth, and Black. So if you take those as well, this is how you start to intersect identity and class, right? The thing is that when it comes to, this tragedy that we're seeing continuously worsen, is that it affects the most marginalized first, and then it moves over to people who aren't as marginalized. So it's like we always say, and I think I can speak pretty freely for all the members of RBN. When we say if they did it to us, they're going to do it to you, I want you to take a look, especially at cities that have a larger white population than a lot of other cities. So, for instance, if you have a city that has like 30 to 40%, not 30 to 40%, would maybe have 20 to 30% Black people, as compared to a city that may have 10 to 15% Black people, you're going to notice that, yes, we're overrepresented in homelessness. But then if you go to more cities that are, have a greater majority that's white, you're going to see a whole lot more homelessness now happening. You're going to see a whole lot more police brutality that's happening. It's because you're getting caught in the crossfire. Like, you were caught in the crossfire a little bit less back then, but is becoming increasingly now, right? Let's continue. It says, for many people who live on Social Security or pensions, the cost of housing, food, and medical care is simply outpacing their modest cost of living increases. More than 700 of the Central Florida region's homeless population is over the age of 50, and nearly 200 are over the age of 65. Of those older than 65 years old, more than half lack somewhere to stay, be it a hotel room, a friend's home, or a homeless shelter. I'm going to say something very, it's not profound at all. As somebody that's also on a fixed income, on disability, I'm going to tell you right now, we don't get nowhere near enough to actually survive in this system. And so when we say that we need help, we need help. And the elderly and disabled are going to be the people who suffer the most. We're already suffering, but it's about to get worse. And more death is coming. And it is unnecessary. And it is completely avoidable. And this is why it is so important for us to build community. Because in a system that gatekeeps, that paywalls necessities like housing, healthcare, food, education, water, utilities, if it's paywall, that means somebody is going to die. And that somebody could be someone very close to you. It can happen to any one of us. This is why it's so important. Let's continue. It says many of those older adults on the streets are elderly, are women, are older women who had never been homeless in their lives, don't know anything about how to navigate the social service system, and figured they would live out the rest of their days in comfort and safety. They never expected their landlord to hit them with a $500 rent increase during the second or third year of the pandemic, or to find themselves in the streets trying to figure out where to go. Half of these folks are not even in a shelter. They're out there on the street, extremely vulnerable and very scared and a little bit angry. It was only a couple of years ago that Florida became a hotspot for the most dramatic rent increases in the nation, with large metro areas like Orlando, Miami, and Tampa Bay, regions bearing the greatest brunt after an early pandemic lull in market changes. Average rent in Orange County, for instance, jumped 33% from 2020 to 2023. I want to put a pin in this. I want to nail this down. For over 3 years span, 33% increase in rent in my area. You guys want to know how much my rent increased before I got kicked out because they wanted to sell the condo that I was living in? I think we were at around 900. around close to 2020. And by 2023, we were at over $1,300, $1,350 in rent. On a fixed income. And about 98% of my entire disability check went to rent. Meaning I can't afford to live on my own. I'm 40 years old. I can't afford to live on my own. That's the reality of many of us who are living in this country. I have a parent that's never owned their own home in their entire life. And she's in her mid 70s. I have, and then the house that we were supposed to inherit got taken away because of my grandmother being late on her taxes. And somebody swept up and took it from her. My grandmother's passed by now. But that house was supposed to be in the family, and it's gone. And so, for instance, if we don't make rent, myself and my elderly mother are out on the street. So I would have to navigate trying to find a shelter while trying to go to kidney dialysis 3 times a week. So when it comes to the risk of being homeless, and I don't care, you could be making $100,000. You're closer to homelessness than people like an Elon Musk or a Larry Ellison. Much closer. This is why solidarity between those of us who are the working class and the poor class is actually very vital. Let's continue. It says nearly half of Florida's middle-income renters are reportedly cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their monthly income on rent or housing. Among low and extremely low-income renters who make less than 30% of the area median income, people like myself, that share of renters is much higher, according to a report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. Higher housing costs have, in part, been attributed to factors like demand, particularly in the Sun Belt, and lack of affordable housing supply. The U.S. Justice Department is also looking into an alleged price-fixing scheme orchestrated by large corporate landlords to boost profits at the expense of everyday middle and low-income people. The greater number of homeless people in the region, said Ari, is not due to greater number of people with mental illnesses moving to the area, nor even an issue of job loss. It is because we have had a sudden increase in rents. Noting that the region's housing market has consistently, been ranked one of the worst in the country by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition for years. And you know what's behind this? Algorithms. Greedy corporate billionaires and shareholders implementing algorithms within their companies in order to keep rents high so they can make more money. Technocracy. So this is the thing that we talk about. It's being implemented throughout the rest of our lives. I just talked about last week on my channel how they're trying to implement AI in hospitals to replace nurses. Technocracy. Gotta love it. And now you have people like Donald Trump that's trying to embrace it as well. So if it wasn't going to be Kamala Harris, it was going to be Donald Trump. Either way, we're screwed. Either party, we're screwed. This is why it is important to get out there and organize and come together as a community and do mutual aid and organize ways in order to circumvent this system totally, completely, as much as we possibly can. So I'm not going to be able to read the entire article, but I just wanted to share that, of course, we know the system is bad. But I also want to also touch on what things that we can do in order to circumvent the system as well. Because I think that's one of the points that we need to focus on, is circumventing the system in order to save ourselves. These politicians are not going to save us. You and I both know that, and we've intrinsically known that. But the thing is like, what are we doing to actively let the rubber meet the road? What are you doing? I was having a conversation with a good friend, and he felt lost. He felt like, and he had this guilt that, man, I'm actually doing good in life, but I feel guilty for seeing people suffer. And it's like, what do I do? And one of the things that I pointed to him was, well, what mutual aid organizations are in your area? Who could you assist? Who could you help? You may not have the time, but if you have the money, you can help in that way. If you don't have the money, do you have the time? Right? And if you don't have the time or the money, but you have the skill, once in a while, can you lend your skills to help people who are doing mutual aid? This is the point. Using your energies in order to be able to help your fellow neighbors so that they don't suffer because of a system that thrives on their exploitation. You're ripping them away from that exploitative process and saying, here, you sit here on this cushion. We'll help you out. And then once you start to feel a little bit better, you can come and help us out. Many hands make the little light. We're actually going to make a brand new system outside of what they're trying to put us in so that we can actually have something better for us. So then it makes this system of technocracy, that makes this system of capitalism obsolete. That's the point. We got to make this system obsolete. We'll do it through peaceful means, but make no mistake that the system is going to get violent and try to come against us whenever we try to do it through peaceful means. That's why we have to be prepared. And so this is why we talk about this. This is why Revolutionary Blackout Network exists. Because you got to know what's going on across the ocean to know what's going on here. You got to know what's going on across the nation to know what's going on here. You got to know what's going on locally. And then you got to learn how to plan and have contingencies in place in order to be able to do that. To help your neighbors. Look, all it takes is a, hi, my name is so-and-so. I live right here. We're your neighbors. If you need anything, if it's a cup of sugar, if it's a couple of eggs, or, if you need help with something that I can possibly provide, hey, reach out to me. No problem. And then build that relationship. Are you coming together with local communities and organizations within your area and getting to know the people just in case some shit goes down? So then you can go to them and they can come to you. And then you guys can actually provide for each other. Are you doing that? Are you getting to know the names and getting to break bread with some of these people in your area? And some of these people are going to be conservative. Some of these people are going to be liberal. And it's okay. As long as you're not risking your safety with people with certain ideas, then you can show them that there is a better way. You can show them that there's a better way outside of the duopoly. You can show them that there's a better way outside of the system. But it takes action, not just words. This is what doing mutual aid means. I don't just want to bring you the stories that depress. I want you to be activated. And I also want you to be angry, but I don't want you to be overcome with the anger so that it blinds you. I want you to use that anger as fuel to focus you into doing the things that you should be doing. Use it as fuel. Because anger gets shit done. But don't be so angry that it depresses you. Maintain that revolutionary optimism too. Because I want you to look forward to the future and see, oh, if we continue on this track, this is what we could have. One of the things that I actually I've always known this, but this is a phrase that was said last week as I was at a meeting with different comrades. And I just want to read this as well, because I think this is important. And part of this is just we got to love each other. And I know it sounds very cliche, but that is absolutely necessary. But I want to share this with you guys. It's a phrase I wrote down in my notes, but I want to make sure I get to this. Let me see. The phrase was from a comrade named Cliff. He says, "We cannot claim the moral high ground just because we got here first." So you're going to meet people who are nowhere near where you're at right now, but they're on their way. So here's what you do. You don't shun them for making that trip. You just say, hey, here's the lights. Hey, come this way, come this way, come this direction. All right, you didn't get it right the first time. All right, but that's okay. You're coming this way. All right, let's go this direction. Let's go to the left, to the left. Everybody on your box to the left. You're going to meet people who are nowhere near where you're at, and that's okay. But the fact is that they're willing because they know that a change has to happen. You can help be the guide. So let me go here as well. I want to share this because this is, make sure. Let me share this because I saw this and I was just like, you know what, this is true. For anybody who likes eggs, or if you don't, you'll get this. If an egg is broken by outside forces, life ends. If broken by inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from inside. We are inside the empire. You get it. So I want to share this also. There was a article that I came across as well. Let me see. What was the next thing? Oh, I know. So this is in regards to what I was talking about earlier. About people who are disabled as well. Because I also want us to deeply think about the people who are the most vulnerable. in our communities. Because that's how we end up changing things. If we have not hyper focus, but we start to focus more on the most disabled and marginalized. It says priced out the affordable housing crisis for people with disabilities in 2024. So let's go to disability and homeless. It says 84% of disabled people with low incomes in the United States, nearly 18 million people in the 15.6 million households are eligible for housing assistance, but do not receive it. 31% of all homeless individuals experience chronic homelessness and have a disabling condition. 65% of these individuals are in unsheltered locations. 30% of homeless individual veterans experience chronic patterns of homelessness with a disabling condition. And now we can also talk about incarceration too, because that's also an important topic. It says 66% of incarcerated people self-report a disability, but Black, Hispanic, and multiracial disabled men, especially overrepresented in prisons. More than 83% of people in state and federal prisons report previously residing in another institution, such as other correctional settings or psychiatric hospitals. National research suggests that up to 15% of incarcerated people experience homelessness in the year before their incarceration. So I want you all to also try to think about the people who are the most marginalized in your life and throw a bone, help them out, whatever you can. It doesn't have to be financially. It could be emotionally, right? Do what you can in that arena, right? Or it could be your time or your energy. These are different forms of mutual aid. I've actually talked about this on this channel, and I showed a video about different forms of mutual aid as well. But that's what's important. So one of the things that we talk about, and I would like to talk about, is, for instance, some of the things that we possibly can do is, easier said than done, but it is having businesses together instead of going into businesses with these corporations, right? Like I said, easier said than done, but can be done. Things like forming worker cooperatives. What are worker co-ops? Worker co-ops are really a type of business that's structured where the workers actually own the business collectively. And they typically also operate the business in a democratic way. The profits for the businesses are also shared among all the workers. So therefore, the power is not at the top, and you're not in a totalitarian structure like a regular corporation where you have a small number or one person at the top that tells everybody what to do. It is really voted on democratically in order for the workers to be able to thrive. So worker cooperatives are something that I actually think that are one of the winners that we will implement more of in our society. Now, being that this is a Black channel, I want to focus on Black worker cooperatives as well. So here's are some that were actually showed to me earlier today, and I just want to share this as well. We are going to break the egg from the inside, people, and I cannot wait. So here is what's shared with me is Detroit Food Co-op. So everyone is welcome to shop. So talks about Detroit Food Co-op, right? So it's member owned. It says, welcome to Detroit People's Food Co-op. The Detroit People's Food Co-op is Black led and community owned grocery cooperative. The co-op's purpose is to provide improved access to healthy food and food education to Detroit residents, Meeting the need of the community is achieved through the democratic control of the co-op by its members' owners. So this is the store here. So if you are in the Michigan area and you guys want to shop and support a business that is democratic and owned by the workers, then hey, there you go. So let me share that in there. All right. So you guys have that. So go ahead and shop at a worker co-op. All right. So let's go to another one. I want to share this as well because they actually, there was a few that were shared. So it's this Black co-op curriculum, right? So this is all for Detroit, Michigan. Black co-op education says cooperativism is a political philosophy that has been used by Africans in the building of U.S. agriculture since we were forcibly brought to the Americas from Africa. Realizing that our survival depended on working together and sharing resources we pull from the collective traditions of the African nations and civilizations we came from. For example, enslaved Black people might share a small kitchen garden to provide a variety of food than what the master would give. Those that had opportunities to earn money would pool those earnings to buy each other's freedom when there was a master willing to sell their property. Cooperativism is also pre-colonial and extends back to African antiquity, prior to the origin of the English word cooperative being widely used to describe the social movement based on economic democracy, regeneration, resistance to capitalism, and other intersecting systems of oppression that it depends on white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, etc. While ancient and powerful, cooperatives can also significantly challenging to develop. Everything from fundraising, community buy-in or engagement, legal and financial filings, and building truly accountable and cooperative work cultures are huge hurdles for many and communities embarking on cooperative development. Even more so, Blackness presents different dynamics that aren't readily addressed in many cooperative resource offerings. So here is some of the group. So as you guys can see. And so I'm going to share this as well. Because the thing is, it's like workplace democracy is really going to be the future of what will change this nation. That's going to be one of the things, right? So there we have that there. And then here's a directory. I'm trying to find something for Central Florida because I want to find some cooperatives that operate here in Central Florida because I want to go to them and I actually want to use whatever funds that I have to purchase from them instead of going to like the Walmarts or the Publix, you know, supermarkets and stuff like that. I actually want to go to those instead, but I gotta find them. And so, of course, that's what I'm looking for. But, you know, if I can share and, you know, we can grow. And if you guys know of any within your local areas, look for them and then use them. Might you pay just a little bit more, you know, shopping at those? Yeah. But is it worth it? Like, who benefits? Like, okay. If I'm going to spend $3 for a loaf of bread, right? If it's $2.50 for a loaf of bread at a Walmart or Publix, I'd rather spend $3 for a loaf of bread at a co-op because the $2.50, a big chunk of that's going to go just to a small contingent of people at the top. versus the $3 I pay for a loaf of bread, and that's going to go to all the workers at that local store. So I'd rather my money go to something that actually is going to benefit people in a material way versus it going to uplift a system that exploits people in the first place. And then on top of that, gardening and growing your own food together and coming together as a community, man, we can do so many beautiful things. And that's the thing that I want you guys to walk away from. But that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, because the thing is like we got to reverse this 105% spike here in Central Florida, or the 80% spike in other places, or maybe even a 30% spike in other cities and towns. And what about in the rural areas where people are suffering right now because of, what these counties and cities are doing because they're at the behest of these corporations? This is why we got to come together, and we have to have solidarity with one another because we're all part of the same class. Now, what does this mean? This means some of y'all are going to have to take some of these ideas that may be kind of bigoted, and you're going to have to toss those ideas to the side, because you can't unite with people who are marginalized and have these ideas, because guess what? They're not going to feel safe around you to have solidarity with you. That means you're going to have to start within. And we all have to start within, because we all have something within us that we got to change, right? Decolonization starts from the inside, baby. That's where it all starts. Because in order for us to have that solidarity with each other, there's got to be some trust there. And I, as somebody that's Black, disabled, and LGBTQ, if you think that my existence shouldn't happen, well, it's going to be kind of hard for me to be able to stand with you. All right? And that's a part of the intersectionality. And some people may not like that term. Some people may not like that idea, but it exists and it is applicable. Welcome to Revolutionary Blackout Network. It's nice to have you here. I hope you guys enjoy your time. And we're big proponents of mutual aid. This is why we have mutual aid chapters in our cities. We have mutual aid chapters in Detroit, in Kansas City, Boston, and here in Orlando. Could you join a mutual aid chapter? Could you join a mutual aid organization in your area? We got to do it. We got work to do. So with that being said, there's a lot more that I wanted to get into today, but I have a lot of information and not enough time to get into it all. But I wanted to go into that. And there's this too, U.S. Worker Co-op Directory. Let me put this in here as well. There you go. All right, everybody. So with that being said, unfortunately, yeah, this is America. Knows how to punch down, never wants to build up. Says, yeah, I know, lost me to all this liberal talk. It's funny. Especially when I start to talk about LGBTQ or different identities, is that it's the Democrats and the liberals that actually tokenized us instead. And then whenever we talk about it from an actual liberatory stance, people are like, oh, you guys are talking like liberals. When in reality, liberals are actually trying to imitate us, but they never actually go all the way when it comes to uniting the classes in order to be able to liberate ourselves collectively. So here's the thing I want people to realize is that the tokenization is not on us. The tokenization is on those liberals who also depend on the billionaires in order to be able to lift themselves up and could preside over everybody else. That's the thing. And a lot of times, a lot of people are going, oh my God, the moment you mention anything outside of class, then you invalidate your claim to liberation. Which in my question is like, why are you invalidating us because of our lived experience within this country? You guys didn't invalidate Palestinians when they were being bombed because of their identity. And yet, whenever we talk about the suffering that happens to us in this nation, whenever we talk about our identities, then we're invalidated. See, this is why the left is cooked. This is why the left is cooking this country, because a lot of times people will look at us and say, well, if you talk about your identity, then you lost me there. When in reality, if our identity didn't matter, then there wouldn't be racial disparities. There wouldn't be disparities among gender. There wouldn't be disparities among different types of identity if that was the case. But it does happen. Why? Because of the social constructs that have been brought in by colonialism and by imperialism. So we got to deal with it, right? And so if you don't want to deal with it, then you don't want class solidarity. And if you don't want class solidarity, then you want the system to continue. So all the people who continuously talk about, oh, don't talk about race, don't talk about gender, don't talk about sexuality, you want to alienate different sectors of the working class because you just want to appeal to the white working class, and that's it. But you won't get a damn way anywhere at all unless you start to try to unite the entire working class. Either you're for the working class or you're not. Let's be real. Because some of y'all also who are in independent media who don't want to talk about what's really going on between people of different identities and the disparities that happen between them. You discount people of different identities within the working class, and then you go, well, why can't we unite? Because you don't want to unite. What did the Rainbow Coalition do? Right? Why did the Black Panthers, why were they so successful? Because not only did they focus on what they were doing for themselves in the community, but then they also came together between communities and they recognized each other's differences and they honored each other's differences without saying, oh, your identity doesn't matter. We should just focus completely on class. Like James Farmer said, back in the 1960s, he said, like, for instance, those of us who are Black Americans, right? We were treated in a special way in a negative sense. So now we have to be treated a special way in a positive sense because it's about equity. It's not just equality that needs to be applied. It's equity that needs to be applied. And you can't get anywhere outside of this system if you don't also address the disparities that are happening within different individual groups. The working class is not a monolith. And so therefore, to treat us like we're a monolith really is just it's disingenuous and discounts us completely. So I'm not trying to pick on you, but what we need to do is we need to start seeing not just the similarities with each other, but also appreciate the differences that are within each other as well. Because that's what humanity is about. It's not this color blindness, because if you're colorblind, that means you don't see me and who I am as my identity. It's about seeing me and also saying, hey, I appreciate you. Because it's like looking at a bouquet of flowers. If you look at a bouquet of flowers, are you going to say, well, these flowers only that matter, and all these flowers should be all the same? When in reality, it's plain, it's boring. But if you look at a bouquet of flowers, and you start to see the beauty in it, and you start to see the variations of it. That's the point. And this is why the left needs to start looking at it as, look, each according to his ability, each according to his need. Guess what? We got to also apply that in different groups, because each group also has abilities and needs that they need that are tailored to themselves. You know, that's the thing, man. So, soapbox is over. Some of y'all gonna dislike the stream, and that's okay. It is what it is. But if you did like what I had to say, if you did like this stream, then go ahead and give a like to this video. Thank you very much. Let's go into, let me check to see if we have any Rumble rants. Yes. And we'll also go to, you know what, let me share this too. Because I think it's important. See, this is why I said what I said earlier. Let's go to this. Whoever's origami person is, see, this is exactly why you can't unite the working class. This is exactly why. Don't come to me and say you want to unite with me when you're putting bullshit like this in the chats. Don't come to me. Because then am I going to be comfortable with you? Am I? Am I going to feel safe? And ladies, also, I want you to see this too, because if they're willing to do this against people like me, then what are they willing to do against people like you? This is why you need to look inward, whoever you are, and start to dissect and decolonize your mind. Because if you continue down this road, it is going to be a very lonely one. Maybe you don't care, or maybe you're going through something, and I hope and pray that you actually get through it. But this isn't the way. That's not the way. And you will die alone with that ideology. This is why we have to unite the working class, but you got to do what you can. Thank you very much to Blank Slate. Let me hang on. Says H-Town, hold it down. Thanks for having Derrick Broze on the show. His old organization, Houston Free Thinkers, was my intro to activism, mutual aid with a benefit concert for nonviolent drug offenders. Oh, that's nice. Pretty cool, Blank State. Sorry, I want to make sure I say your name correctly. Thank you very much for that, Blank State. Thank you very much for this Rumble rant. Also, thank you very much for this. Legal defense. Oh, legal defenses for those who are incarcerated. Okay, nice. And yeah, so we're going to finish with that. Thank you very much. All right, let's go into the Rockfin chat. I know I made Roger proud today. Roger, you know I was thinking about you, man. All right, let's go. Hey, where did it go? Where you at? Where you at, Rockfin chat? Where you at? All right, so Roger says, since we're talking DeSantis, peep the Tallahassee link I DM'd you, plus zero in on the highlights on the screenshots as well. All right, I'll take a look at that a little bit later because I got to make sure I'm done at a specific time because I don't want to be late for this meeting. Denver Attaway says, starting a new golden age so I can get my shekels faster. Thank you very much for that. He says, speaking of self-empowerment. Oh, yeah, the Ohio Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. That's another thing. They're actually trying to end qualified immunity in Ohio, which is extremely important. And I encourage anybody, if there's any groups that are trying to end qualified immunity, especially from a direct democracy perspective, then get together with them, people, so that you guys can also do that. All right. So let's continue. He says worker co-ops is how you bring AI to heal. Stop outsourcing. Guarantee American-made manufacturing. Ensure safety in the workplace. Don't put communities and environment at risk. End strikes. Yeah, I would love to be able so that we don't even have to strike at all. Because if you own the means of production, you don't have to strike because you own the means of production. That's the point. And that's one of the reasons why I talk about worker co-ops. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I support unions, and unions are a step in the right direction, but we got to go beyond unions. Workers need to own the establishments. Workers need to own the companies collectively. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Indy. Indy Left is a great comrade. Go ahead and give them a follow. They also, oh, you guys just got the 3,000 subs. Congratulations to you guys. Congratulations. Give a congratulations to Indy in the chat as well. Oh, tick ticks. Oh. You speak it. You laying down bars. Democracy literally means people power. There is no democracy when the people outsource their own power to ideological grifters and expensive suits. You get a clap for that one too. I like that. I like that. Welcome. I never seen you around here before, but it's nice to have you. All right. Author says worker owned is definitely the way to go. Study the Mondragon model. Yes, the Mondragon Corporation. They're a company in Spain that is worker cooperative. I think they have like something like 150,000 members in their cooperative. It's crazy huge, but it's amazing. Like, you know, and look, it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's way better than the system that we have now, right? That's the point. You know, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We just want good. You know, that's pretty much what we want. I think I saw a super chat. Let's go to that. I think or is it already started? Yay. All right. DC, good to see you. It says mortgage paid off by 10 plus years, but no compensation. You were able to pay off your mortgage? I mean, congratulations if you were, but no compensation. What does that mean? I'm not sure what you mean by that. But if you were able to pay off your mortgage, I'm happy for you. I know that is a task. That is a task. I saw my homie in here. Katie Lewis, also part of the Orlando chapter for RBN. Thank you so very much. And thank you very much for also, you know, having that platform for those articles to be written in your Substack. Actually, while I'm at it, let me share. If you guys have not, you guys need to subscribe to Chronicles for Black Political Power. They are a great resource on Substack. Katie Lewis writes amazing articles, but he also puts in the work and also features articles from other writers too. They're allowed to submit articles, and then he features those on his Substack as well. So you guys have that there. So it's called Chronicles for Black Political Power. And he talks about some of the most popular ones, the trial of the Uhuru 3, starvation, wages, failure. That is the U.S. homelessness crisis. That one was a recent one that was really good. Talks about insurance, political, power as far as doing mutual aid. Katie Lewis has done a lot of great work. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe to CBPP News. So, and I also think I saw Tim in the chat too. I think he was very early, but good to see you, Tim, if I can't get to you in time. But, oh yeah. Fannie Lou Hamer had the Freedom Farmers Cooperative in Mississippi. Definitely need to revitalize that legacy. I wish, in Orlando, Real Orlando, there's an acronym for Revolutionary Education Action League. They also have the Freedom Farm, which they actually farm a lot of produce, and then they use that same produce and they cook it along with People's Free Kitchen, and then they create meals for the unhoused and for the people who are, economically depressed in neighborhoods that right near me in here in Orlando. And so it's organizations like that you can join, right? You have Freedom Feeders Cooperative that Katie Lewis also is a part of. He is in, I think near Cocoa and Brevard County. You can also, help out with, organizations like that. So I appreciate him for that. Jay the Fool says, we are not part of the same class. I have a job. See what I mean? Now, I don't know if this is a troll or if this person is actually serious. But in reality, if you lost that job and you weren't able to get another one, if you became homeless, then what would you be? Well, you are part of the same class as me because you actually need a job in order to survive. See, the capitalist class, they don't need a job to survive. They can just not work at all, and that money still keeps pouring in. If you have a job, then that means that you need is to survive. So therefore, you and I are actually part of the same class. Now, you may be at a different level, within that class, but we're still part of the same class. Hell, I'm part of the same class as, say, a Kyrie Irving. Even though he may make millions of dollars a year as a basketball player, he still uses his labor in order to be able to make a living. But the problem is that you think you're so far removed from people like me, and this somehow makes you feel better about yourself that you're going to have a rude awakening one day. And once that rude awakening happens, then you're going to realize, oh my God, we actually are as part of the same class. Fortunately, unlike you, I still hope and will fight for a system where you have healthcare, housing, education, clean water, utilities, and leisure as a necessity fully given to you without it being paywalled. I hope that for you. I just wish you would hope the same thing for me, but people have to learn. Peaceful Dove says, James, Bradenton, Florida used to have a call. They did? Oh, I don't like that word used to. Well, I hope they open back one. I hope they open one back up again. All right. So nature itself paywalls utility. You're asking for slave labor. No, I'm not. I'm actually asking for all of us to pool our resources together in order for us to not only survive but thrive. That's how society operates. Right. So let's continue on. Yeah. DC says class antagonism is how you get robbed. So I think I'm pretty much done. The only thing that I want to bring up now is, of course, there is going to be an event in February 22nd. And it's going to be with the Worker Strike Back. Make sure I can find it here. Worker Strike Back is actually having an event, and I'm trying to go to that event for this. Trying to find it. Sorry. Where are you? Here we go. It's an organizing conference. So it's going to be on Saturday, February 22nd. There's going to be Dr. Joe Stein, Shama Sawant, and Chris Hedges is going to be there. And it says we need to use our momentum from getting out the vote for Jill Stein's anti-war pro-worker campaign to fight the rich and their two parties, to end the wars and the genocide in Gaza, to fight against racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression, to organize protests and take strike actions to win a $25 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all, quality affordable housing, and good union jobs for all. And I would include worker cooperatives, because that's one of the reasons why I'm going to go there to help push that. But yes, we're going to be just going to be having that there. I was invited personally by Dr. Jill Stein and Shama Sawant to attend. And so I actually want to go. And so I am, of course, raising funds in order to be able to go, because I am on a fixed income and I would like to go. So if you guys would like to assist me with that, that'd be great. If you guys like just share, then that's cool too. But yes, I will be on my way to try to get there. I'm raising the money through Spot Fund because, screw GoFundMe, because GoFundMe is, they have done some shady and nefarious things in the past. But we're almost about to halfway our goal, I would say. And so almost to halfway our goal, the halfway point. Once we get to, I think, to 950, then we should be halfway there. But this is for me to go to Seattle for the organizing conference. I'm going to put the link in description as well. Thank you very much to everybody for assisting so far. And of course, for anybody who donates, I will be giving them a shout out on Twitter. And I have been so far. So yes, so far we're at 867. So hopefully I'll be able to get to my goal within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, so of course I'll be doing that. So if you guys would like to, you guys can donate to that. I'll be trying to get up to Seattle as well. And with that being said, it's time for me to go. And I hope you guys enjoyed this Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on my channel. I will be having on Joey Peltier, who is related to Leonard Peltier, who just has his sentence. I'm blanking on the word. Communed. By Joe Biden before he left office. So he will be finishing out his sentence at home instead of being in prison, which is good. So thank you very much. Super chat says Jaybe, you missed. I didn't see it, Roger. I'm sorry. Was it far back? Ah, here it is. Thank you for this. Roger Meadow says, if Apple was a worker co-op, each member would get $403,000 a year. That's from Bloomberg. Yes, I remember that article. Yeah. Just think about that. Like, if Apple was a worker cooperative, man. Think about if Amazon was a worker cooperative, or Walmart, or Disney. Oh my gosh. What if Disney was a worker co-op? That'd be crazy, right? Thank you very much. Oh, DC says you missed my first super chat. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. I'm sorry. These things are supposed to automatically star, and it didn't automatically star. So my apologies. This is why technology, ever improving, ever changing. Let me see. Let me. Unfortunately, we don't have producers on this channel. So we don't have people who can just like star them as soon as they come up. Okay, so I see that one. There was another one. Oh, here it is. DC said, my dad also had his home auctioned off for late taxes. Oh my gosh. That's sad. I'm very sorry, DC. I think that was the one you were referring to. Okay, that makes more sense now. Yeah. It's sad when it happens to anybody, for the most part. Tim Price says, nah, y'all would be here in this house with me. Tim coming in with the big heart and the compassion. Once again, I cannot lie. All right. So I think I'm done. I think so. All right. So also, by the way, at 5 p.m. Eastern, Robbie says, what should I watch? Savvy's going to be on with George Galloway at 5. I think, is it 5? Or is he on now? Wait, it's 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Britain time. So I think she just came on. I think so. Anyway, go ahead and check it out and watch her interview as well. So, yeah. And then DC says the second one stated the mortgage was already paid off by 10 plus years and he never received any compensation. Oh my gosh. That hurts, man. That really hurts. I'm so sorry. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to head out. And thank you guys so much. And you guys keep throwing information at me. Hempcar says, RT said GMO feed fed mice grew hair in their mouth. HuffPost said GMO soy feed to hamsters had their testes turn blue and stare. What? I think Redacted said Trump is blocking RFK Jr.'s 2 picks for jab safety when he met with Bill Gates for 3 hours. How is he going to keep his base doing this? What? That's a whole nother thing, man. Donald Trump had just played his supporters, man, like a fiddle. And now he's doing everything that a Joe Biden or Kamala Harris would do. See, this is the thing, man. This is why we talk about we're all kind of running away from both parties, man, because they're doing the exact same thing. They're both beholden to the billionaires. God, I just wish that a lot of people would realize that. But they're going to. It's just not going to be. It's not going to be in a comfortable way. It's not going to be in a comfortable way. But that's why we got to be here to let them know, hey, you're not crazy. The system is rigged. We got to change it ourselves. But everybody, thank you so very much. Water your plants. Water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things you've got them. Smoke them if you got them. Drink them if you got them. Do all the things, right? And look, I want to share this with you guys. Hang on, because we're going to end with something funny. I want us to laugh, okay? Now, you guys have yourself a beautiful day. Mwah, forehead kisses, because that's what I do. All right. Thank you so very much. And thank you very much for this. When you get to Seattle, look up David B. Owens. He's a social justice lawyer. You have a lot in common. It will have a lot to talk about. Blessings and aloha. Safe travels, brother. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Take care. And I will see you guys in the next one. All right. Let's get it.
Are you complaining to me about something?
We got something to talk about.
Could you say that again? I didn't quite understand.
Oh, you don't understand. Talk about. Huh?
You're not happy about something.
Oh, good observation, Dr. Phil. Now, can you tell me why I'm not?
Is it because
Nope.
I'm sitting down?
No.
Is it because I'm ignoring you?
You close.
I'm not playing with you?
You know that's why.
I played with you.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
When we were playing?
Mm-mm.
Just a minute ago?
You talking about a minute that already passed.
All right.
Now, I want to talk about all the upcoming times. What you gonna do about all those minutes?